What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Round Table Talk. I am your host, C-Money. And just a few minutes ago, we did an episode showcasing and highlighting my old high school, Highland Miami Lakes in the area. This is Lake Patricia Shopping Center. I just wanted to point out this is where I walked over here to the Miami Lakes area because we are now north of Northwest 138th Street. And this is one of the little shopping centers where we used to go to for noon. Vicky's Bakery, which is still here, which is one of my favorite places. When we used to go out for lunch, because back then, I don't know if they do it now, but back then they allowed us to leave for lunch and we get to go to like certain areas for lunch. We used to frequently come here, and one of the places that I used to frequently come to is now a actual local chained bakery, which is Vicky Bakery, which we're going to walk to in just a couple of seconds. Well, just a few seconds, we'll be right there. This Subway, I don't know if this Subway's been here for a while, but I'm quite sure it has. This is Prime Cleaners, tailoring, dry cleaners, laundry, and of course here, Vicky Bakery. Now, I have frequently visited this Vicky Bakery when the original since 1972. Now they have several locations in the South Florida area as well, but this was, I believe, had to be the original location because I actually frequently visited this location back when I was in high school, and I came, when we used to leave and go to lunch and things like that, we used to come to this actual location, and I used to get like my little pastries and things like that. There was another bakery that's not too far from where, if you caught like I said, when you used to walk to get to the E-Bus, Miami Lakes Daycare, where there was a bakery that used to offer cheese bread, and my mom used to get it from there all the time, and I used to sometimes go there. And I don't know if the bakery still exists, and they used to have cheese bread where the cheese was inside of the bread. Oh my God, it was delicious and it was great and things like that. So that was one of the things. And when you go further north of here, you'll run into Main Street. And as you know, we did an episode of Main Street, Miami Lakes a while back. So you can go visit hot spots in South Florida and check out Main Street, Miami Lakes. So we did an episode of that. I just wanted to pinpoint this because this was one of the areas that I frequently visited when I wanted to go get something to snack on. Remember, I told you when we skipped school, we used to go to McDonald Park to the south of this area where, the kids used to hang out at, and we did an episode of McDonald Park. And if you wanted for lunch, if you wanted to go grab something to eat, you came over here to the Vicky Bakery, or you went to other things, because this was the closest shopping center that had food where you can actually go to when you left HML. Like, it wasn't like how a lot of these schools, like North Miami Beach Senior High, you have 163rd Street Mall. So when the kids want to go lunch, they can just go into the food court and eat some of the food from in the food court. Or like certain high schools, they are near like certain restaurants and certain businesses where they can say, hey, I'm gonna go to this and get something to eat. Like Edison Senior High School, about 2 blocks away is a McDonald's. So when you can go to lunch and order lunch, and now these days with apps, you can order your food while you're in class, and when the bell rings, you can run and pick up your food from, because back then you had to try to rush to come over here. It's not like how it is now. When lunch, when it was time to go to lunch, you had to literally walk over here, get your food, then we'll try to make it back in time enough to make it before lunch was over, so you can get to your next class. Because at that time we had like 2 lunch schedules, and you went to either the first lunch part or you went to the second lunch part. And I don't remember which one I went to. I don't remember too much of what went on in my high school. I just know I have a lot of memories of high school, but I don't know like my schedule, and some of the teachers I probably don't remember and things like that. But at the same time, you had it where you had to leave, take your little, probably like a 10-minute walk or so over here, get what you needed, then you had to take that 10-minute walk back, and then you had to try to make it back before lunch was over to get to your next class or whatever. And if you did make it back, you have time enough to sit down and eat it and things like that. Nowadays, you could be sitting in your classroom and you be like, oh, I'm finna go to Vicky Bakery. Let me see if I can order it online. You can order it 5 minutes before the bell rings for lunch, and then when the bell rings for lunch, you come right out here, oh, your order's ready. Or you right here by a Subway, because see, there's a Subway right there. You can order your Subway online, while you're in class, and say, oh, I'm finna order my Subway. So when I get there, it'll be ready. Then by the time you get the Subway, it'll be nice and ready for you. You pick it up, you can eat it at Subway, or you can come back to the school, eat now these days they have technology now to where it's much easier for them to get their food. Back then, we had to walk to the restaurants and walk to the stores to get our snacks and drinks and stuff. We didn't have technology where we can order our food while we're in class and then we can because I use technology now. Most of every restaurant that I own, that I go to, I have an account with. Like yesterday when I left, I ended up ordering Chipotle online, and by golly, it was a good thing because I ended up getting a free meal from Chipotle because I had points on my rewards program, and I ended up getting a free meal from Chipotle. And I also did get some Caribbean food from Donna's Caribbean restaurant. I had got some curry chicken with some rice and things like that, and stuff like that. But it's a lot more easier where you can order your food and by the time you get there, it's ready. But here back then we couldn't order our food online because smartphones wasn't invented, computers was there, but it wasn't like we could go on the websites, because a lot of restaurants and a lot of places didn't have websites. So for us, it was like, okay, let's, we can do this and do that. Back then, we had to walk to Burger King, we had to walk to McDonald's, we had to walk to Subway, or in this case, Vicky Bakery and things like that to get our food, and then we had to order it and wait in line to like somebody assist us, because if it was a long line, you had to sit there and wait till they finished taking everybody's order that was ahead of you, and then you ordered your food, and then you had to wait for your food, and then you had to be like, oh shoot, it's 10 minutes, we got 10 minutes left, and then you had to try to rush back to the school to get to class. And then, it was a lot more difficult back then to get food on lunch break, but I think eventually they had stopped where kids cannot leave to go get food for lunch. But I don't know if that's the case now. If anybody knows about the school system and how their lunch system works, comment at the bottom of this page, because I know now they offer different varieties of types of food at these schools. Well, not like I said, when I went to high school, when I started high school, they started serving McDonald's quarter pounder with cheese sandwiches, and I don't know if they served the fries, but I know they used to do like the canned sodas and stuff. They used to do the quarter pounder with cheese, so I was like, okay. Sorry, y'all, I'm drinking water. It done got hot. On my way here, it was raining like crazy. So I was at the train station and it was raining like crazy, and I had to wait because I said I didn't want to come out here in the rain and then I get soaked because but then as I got, to the bus and I caught the bus and things like that, it started getting sunny and it started getting hot as hell. Because when I left my house, it was hot as hell. But like I said, yeah, we had a time. Back then, it was a timing process. If you had like 30 to 40 minutes of lunch, you had to try to find a way to leave the class, come walk over here, which is probably like a 10-minute walk, to get to this shopping center, order what you needed either out of Victory Bakery and maybe Subway, because I don't know if the Subway was here back then, but but yeah, you come here to Victory Bakery, or you went to the gas station and things like that, and this Italian restaurant I think was here too, but who in their right mind will order Italian food in the middle of a school day, and you gotta go back to school with it, and stuff like that. I remember in college, at my college campus, we had our on-site own cafeteria on site, and we was able to purchase food. And they used to have pasta and pizza and all that stuff. And what my college, because it was a technical college, we was the only campus that had our on-site cafeteria. And I used to buy the food, and sometimes I'll take it home, or sometimes I'll eat it there, and I'm like, ooh, yeah. But here, when back then, let me know if your school had a restaurant or a corner store that was close to you, because as you can see, HML, you had to do at least a 5 to 10 minute walk from HML, depending on what side of the school you left out of. If you left out of the school from way on the other side of the school to get over here, yeah, it would probably take you a 10 minute. But if you went, one of the exits that was closest to this, it'll probably take you a 5-minute walk. And you had to come here, buy your food, and then you had to try to figure out, how much time you have left, if you want to take the food back to school and eat it there, or you can eat the food here, because I think they have outside chairs. If you saw it, they do have outside chairs here for Vicky Bakery, but and stuff like that. So you had to try to figure out how you was going to get to and from school within the lunchtime, And if you had a car, which is even better, because you can go off to school and go to a restaurant. You can go to Pizza Hut, because there used to be a Pizza Hut down the street. There is now a LaGrange where the Pizza Hut is at. So if you had a car, it was perfect. You went off school, you took your girlfriend with you. Yeah, let's go have lunch. Let's go to McDonald's. Let's go through the drive-thru. And you went to the drive-thru. You got you a nice little 99-cent burger with some fries, a $2.99 combo. Because back then was simpler times. Now kids can't even get what we used to get back then. Because back then, it was cheap for us to go to McDonald's or Burger King. We had $2.99 combo. We're going to talk about that in another video. Simpler times for kids in school versus back then versus simpler times now. Because back then, it was easier for us. It was easier because the prices back then was a little bit cheaper. Now, they got a little bit made of today because they have technology. We didn't have technology. What we had was lower prices. What we had back then versus what we have now, we didn't have technology, but we had lower prices and lower cost of living. They have technology where you can order your food from your house and it can be ready by the time you go there and get picked up, versus you having to get out of your car, get out of your place of wherever you're at, walk all the way down or drive all the way down 10, 15 minutes, order your food and then have to sit there and wait till it's done, versus you order it online and by the time you get there, it's ready. But us, it was simpler times. We took the time to walk and view the areas and see the scenic views, and we actually had time to go and actually enjoy the areas, look at the water, because there is a little canal that sits over here that I didn't show you. And matter of fact, let me go show you the canal over here. And then we actually had, explored without there. Now these days, these kids got cell phones and they got apps and smartphones, and they say, yo, dude, what you gonna eat today? Yo, I think I'm fan. And then now, it's even better because now the kids can get their food delivered to the high school. You can just put a pin on wherever you want to get delivered at, and you can wait for your food. You can be in class 30 minutes and say, oh, class in 30 minutes. I'm finna order my food right now. And then by the time the class in, your food could be right there, and you could just like, oh, I got my food delivered. Thank you, Mom. Or you could say, Mom, order me some food and have it delivered to the school. Uber Eats, DoorDash, and like I said, these kids today have it way much better as far as getting food. Now, the only problem is, it'll cost you an arm and a leg, because picking up food versus getting food delivered, you have to pay taxes, which automatically you pay taxes when you actually go into the store, but you also have to pay a delivery fee, a service fee, and then you also have to tip the driver, because you want your driver to have a good tip, and you can't just tip them one like 50 cents or something like that, like how you do in the restaurants when you go to a restaurant and the change they have left over from the restaurant, you give it to them. Like if your change is like 65 cents, you're like, I don't want the change, so I'm gonna just give it to them. And you tip them 65 cents. No, you have to actually tip them $1, $2, $3. And for me, I don't think $1 tip. I only do $1 tips when it's like Uber rides and it's like a small trip or something like that. But like the minimum I do for tips is $2. And I don't do no $1 tip for nobody that's delivering my food, because I feel like that's a throwing ahead. So yeah, you have to pay that fee. This is the canal I was talking about. And as you can see over there, that is 138th Street, which eventually turns into 135th. So yeah, and we are here. This is Welcome to Miami Lakes, Growing Beautifully. And this is called the town of Miami Lakes. So yeah, like I said, and this is, I'm gonna go and show you the sign, the Rotary Centennial Park. So this is history, South Florida. I'm not gonna go, oh, somebody left a couple of shoes there. Sponsored by the Rotary Club of Miami Lakes in honor of Rotary International's 100 years of humanitarian service, 1905 to 2005. This club proudly joins with this community in offering people a peaceful place to rest, enjoy, and contemplate helping others, service above self. So okay, so this is the Rotary Centennial Park. There was a bunch of guys that was fishing here earlier, and you see there's a few ducks. I will go sit there by the water, but apparently because it is sunny and hot and they don't have covered shade, well, I might go sit at the thing. But yeah, like I said, back then, and we're gonna do a video about it, because I'm not gonna get really deep into the conversation, because it's gonna be like a sit down conversation where I talk about about versus then back then, because we used to have to leave and come here to get our food, or order some food, and we had to do it, and we had to wait, and that took up about 15 to 20 minutes of our time, because let's say, for instance, they had to walk way through this field right there to come out here. You walk through this field, it probably took you 5 minutes. Then you had to sit here and order your food and wait for your food, which was about another 10 minutes, depending on how many people was there. And then you had that option of taking your food back with you, and if you took it back with you, did you have enough time to eat your food while you was in class? So things like that. Back then it was much simpler for us because prices was cheap. You could probably get a pastry for like 79 cents or something like that. Now a pastry is like $3 and $4 for a fucking I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to cuss for like I'm sorry, my bad for the bad language. But back then, they went across the street. There's somebody across the street, so they're fishing over there. Back then a pastry was like $1, maybe 50 cents. Now a pastry is like $2 or $3 for because back then, I was a fan of guava and cheese. I'm not really a fan of guava and cheese now because the pastry is so flaky, and a lot of the times these places that be selling guava and cheese, they don't have enough guava and cheese. You get more pastry flakes and more of the pastry than you do of the guava and cheese, and it's like they put a little bit of guava and cheese in there and they charge you like $3 or $4 for it, and I'm like, man, where's the guava and cheese? It's only a little bit. You take one bite and you done ate all the guava and cheese. All it is flaky crust and things like that. So yeah, but this is this thing, and this is the Grantney Expressway. I don't know if I'm saying it right. This is the west side of Grantney Expressway. When you get to 32nd Avenue, which is east of here, that is the end of the Grantney Expressway, and it turns into Northwest 119th Street. If you're coming from East Grantney to here, when you pass 32nd Avenue, it turns into the Grantney Expressway. The first exit is, of course, 37th Avenue and 42nd Avenue, which is near the Opelika Highland Flea Market, the old Opelika Highland Flea Market where I did an episode of. And then it stretches and extends all the way, and then I believe to the west, it turns into the I-75. Because I know it extends all the way to the 826 Palmetto Expressway. And then I think from there, it turns into the I-75, if I'm not mistaken. But you can Google it and find out. And then also as well, I have nothing for y'all. Do not come over here, ducks. I have nothing for y'all because I only have water. The bag of chips I had, I ate it at the train station waiting on the bus. I have nothing for y'all, so don't come over here. I hate when I sit down and then people, when the ducks, they see me, they want to come and try to think I got some food for them. No, I just want to relax myself for a second before I head on out. And y'all think I got food? No. But yeah. This is the area that I frequently, when I was a childhood, when I used to sometimes come out here to Vicky Bakery, and even when I didn't have to work. And then when I went to night school, because yes, I did have to go to night school. I wasn't an A student. I wasn't smart. I wasn't a nerd. And a little bit of information about me you don't know. I wasn't a nerd, but I wasn't one of the cool kids. I was in between. I was one of them kids that didn't get good grades, but good enough to say, okay, whatever. Because I wasn't a nerd, but I wasn't a nerd, I wasn't a bad kid, and I wasn't a jock or the cool kids. Because in school, you had like 3 or 4 groups. You had the nerds, you had the jocks, which was the football players and all that mess. You had the cool kids, the kids that, everybody wanted to be around. And you had the in-between, which is what I was, in between. I wasn't the cool kid, but I had friends I could hang with. I wasn't a jock because I never played sports or nothing like that. And I wasn't a nerd that walked around and had a whole bunch of A's and B's. I was just a regular student. So that was what it was. So yeah, why is they following me? Get away from me. I have nothing for y'all. So why are y'all following me like I have food? I think people that be coming over here, and I think one of the things is a lot of people that be feeding the birds, they expect now that you feed the birds. That's why they had at the train station, I was at the Okeechobee train station, and they had, please do not feed the pigeons. Because I know once you start feeding, like at Grinnell's Park, when you feed the raccoons automatically, people be feeding the raccoons at Grinnell's Park. And automatically, the raccoons be thinking every time they see somebody, they got food. And when they go sit down at one of the benches, they go over to them thinking that they're going to feed them. And That's, I think, one of the reasons why they say please don't feed the animals or the pigeons and stuff like that, because if you feed them, they're going to automatically think that somebody is going to want to feed them. You see that I walked away from me now because I walked away from them and I wasn't over there where they were. So of course they thought I was going to feed them some bread or something, and I'm like, yeah, I ain't got no bread, baby. I can go to Vicky Bakery and get a little loaf of bread, and I can feed y'all. But if I get a loaf of bread, I'm gonna want to take it home and eat it myself, because some of the bread that be inside these bakeries, they be the good bread. They be the bread that some of them be having cheese in it, maybe pastry filled and all that, and you be like, I want to. That's the bread you want to kind of bring home. You don't want to buy. And then the bread, bread ain't cheap. It ain't like how it used to be 50-cent bread and 99-cent loaf of bread. Nah, baby, you paying almost $2 or $3 for a loaf of bread. And baby, I ain't got that money to be. I got the money, but I ain't got that money to be spending to feed the birds, because a lot of people, they get the bread and they come out and they feed. Like how back in the day the older elderly people used to sit at the park by the water and they used to throw the bread out and feed the little birds, the ducks and the birds. They used to feed them. Baby, I don't do that now, baby, because now these days bread costs. Back then it was cheaper to buy bread, 50 cents. That's why I say a lot of these people, we had it good back then to a certain extent, but they have it a little bit better because of technology, and we'll get into that on another episode. But yeah, this is the town of Miami Lakes. We're like Lake Patricia Shopping Center here off the corner of Ludlam Road, Northwest 67th Avenue, which is West 12th Avenue in Hialeah, and West 84th Street in Hialeah, which is Northwest 138th Street elsewhere. So we had it there. So this is where we're at. We covered Vicky Bakery, as you can see. That's the field of Hialeah, Miami Lakes. I just wanted to cover the area where I frequently visited, another part of my history. If you've ever been to this area, and if you've been over here, and like I said, if you've been to this school, or if you used to live in this area, or you was a frequent visitor of this area, hey, comment at the bottom on this page and email me, roundtable305@yahoo.com. I would love to hear from people who have stories of this area. If you've been to Hialeah, Miami Lakes, if you've been to Rainbow Park, if you've been to North Dade Middle, even if you've been to the schools in the area. I know Miami Lakes Technical Educational Center, back then it was just a technical school it was a technical college. Now they added high school to the venue, so now it's an educational center, because back then it used to be where you can go get a trade, or you can get like a trade degree, like if you wanted to be a technician or a culinary, or you wanted to be, it was a technical college, for, that was owned and operated by Miami-Dade, public schools. But then they started adding, a high school, there, so now it's called the Educational Center, because you can still go there to get a technical, degree. If you wanted to go to a trade school, you could still go there. But as now they added, it's a high school, because Hialeah, Miami Lakes also has an adult educational center, and that's what they call it. Where at night, kids, because I went to night school, when you had to make up some credits for some of the classes you were failing, you had to take them in night school to help you pass. They would have where you come at night school, and they did have at night classes for people who wanted to take up a trade, but it was like certain classes. It wasn't like an actual technical school. It was just like if you needed like a Spanish speaking class, where you want to, when you're a Spanish person that want to learn English, or they had like certain classes, because it was a school that I wanted to go to called D.A. Dorsey Technical School, and I was going for culinary, and they told me that they have a culinary class, but it's at night, because they didn't have an actual culinary kitchen. So at night they would have a culinary class, and the kitchen they would use Miami Northwestern, which was less than 5 minutes away from it, and they used the kitchen at the Miami Northwestern Senior High School, and they say the other place that has it is D.A. Dorsey, that has a kitchen in it, and stuff like that. But yeah, there was things like that and stuff like that. So and then there's American High School, which is north of here, same street, 67th Avenue, just north of here, probably like maybe a 10-minute drive. And it was the actual high school that actually serviced the Miami Lakes kids, because Miami Lakes didn't have an actual Miami Lakes high school. They had American High School to the north, and they had American Senior High School to the north, and they had Hialeah Miami Lakes, which was to the south. And of course you had, now they're in the water, so good. So, and then you had the other areas. So then you had that, and then Miami Lakes had elementary schools. The middle school, I don't even know if they had a middle school. I don't even know if Miami Lakes have a middle school. And we did do a video of Main Street, if you've seen my video of Main Street. And I did do a video, I believe last year, of the spring festival that they had at the Catholic Church. I actually went this year, and I took my mom with me. But I was kind of disgusted of the Springs Festival, because they had the same rides that they had last year. But after a while, the lines got a little bit longer, and I stood in one of the rides for like over 30 minutes, and I was like, yeah, it was time to go. And the food was kind of horrible. I would have did a food review, but at the same time, I felt like because this is a once in a year thing, I didn't want to do a food review, because it's not like it's an actual business or establishment. It was just something that they did on the side to sell food to the local people that came to the event. But yeah, things like that in the area. So yeah, this is it. I thank you for watching this episode. This is Los Palmas Medical Center. I think this building was here before. I just don't remember what it was back then. So I think this building's been here. We are here at the corner of West 84th Street, 138th Street, and Ludlam Road, 67th Avenue / West 12th Avenue, here in the Miami Lakes Hialeah borderline. Comment at the bottom of this page. You can also email me, roundtable305@yahoo.com. Let me know if you've ever been in this area, if you know more about this area. This is the spot where the kids used to come at for lunch. Let me know how you feel. Comment, email. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated. I'm probably going to be out here for a couple of minutes and then head back over, because I have a few other things to take care of before I head home, and get something to eat as well. So stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated. This is a beautiful scenery, even though they messed it up with a lot of the trash here. And of course, somebody's shoes. And I will see you in the next episode of the Roundtable Talk. Take care.